Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's new tool time in the shop. Those of you who are regular followers will know that my main air compressor is kaput. She's down for the count right now. And on that bombshell, I've decided to institute an air tools and air compressor playlist for the channel. So there's going to end up being like 30 videos by the time we get this all done. I thought about calling it the pneumatics playlist, but that just struck me as a little too hoity-toity for my crowd. And me, of course. So if you want to go see all the happenings on the air compressors and air tooly things and all that, link up there and down in the description. So I picked up this Ryobi 18V cordless guy just to help me get over the cliff. Just so if I have a tire or something that needs aired up, I'm not completely screwed. And I kind of been wanting to play with one of these things anyway, because I just think it's a neat idea. Then I had the thought, what would I do if I needed to run an air tool while my main compressor was down? Because I know this thing's not going to like running like an impact gun or anything like that for any period of time, and probably not at all. And I came up with the thought that maybe we'll torture test this thing. And when I say that, realize I'm not whistling diesel. I'm not trying to kill this thing. I just want to have a little bit of fun with it and put it through a little bit of a workout. And when I first got the thing out of the box, I thought, wow, a real workout for this thing will be just seeing if it will even fill my 21-gallon tank on my normal air compressor. I thought that until I read the manual for it. And I say that because the break-in procedure on this thing is exactly the same as a big air compressor. They tell you to run this thing non-stop for half an hour with the bottom valve opened up on it and with a 4 amp hour battery running it. And they say run it for a half an hour or an entire 4 amp hour battery, whichever thing happens first. And I was thinking, holy crap, that seems like a really long time, even without it building pressure. And I understand the idea is that you want it to break the piston in the cylinder and all that, and this thing's oilless, so that's kind of a whole thing in and of itself. But it still struck me as a really long time to have it running. So what I think we're going to do is run that break-in procedure and then immediately just close the valve and switch right off to running my 21-gallon tank. And we can measure the temperature of the compressor itself with my old infrared thermometer here and just see what's going to happen. See if it just comes up to like really hot and stays there, if it just keeps getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And I reserve the right to stop the test anytime I want. If this thing's looking like it's going to literally melt, you know, I'm not out to just destroy stuff. But I am curious, so we'll see what happens. But the first thing I'm going to need to do is change this innie into an outie so I can connect an air hose to this thing and to my other tank. And how I'm going to do that is just with a female and male quick connect. We'll just get some thread compound on there, screw them together, and then we've got a union we can use for our air hoses. On a tangent, something that's pretty cool is this guy is spring-loaded. So to engage your hose, you just push your coupler in and it automatically locks. And then to get your stuff back is when you have to pull the collar. That's kind of nice because that collar is kind of a pain for me to get on anyway. I guess from the side that blocks the camera, it's not as hard. Anyway, let's get stuff set up. And our setup is as follows. We've got a compressor, we've got a timer, we've got the old broken down 21-gallon Harbor Freight back there with a hose plumbed into him. It comes down around. When the time is right, I will plug the hose into the connection right here. This is the double that I just put together. And one place I'm going to deviate from the instructions is rather than have the valve on the bottom of the tank open, I'm just going to leave this guy in there for the break-in. It's going to do the same thing. It's just going to flow air to atmosphere the whole time. And I think as this goes, I'm going to take temperatures like every 5 minutes-ish, and I'm going to take them right where it says 14, like right where this radius comes in. That's where I'm going to aim my laser. So like right now, aiming the laser there, it says 69.4, which is pretty much just the temperature in the shop. I also have my supercharger here, just set to kill with all my batteries fully charged. Grab one of these big 9 amp hour guys to get started. And he's got another 9 amp hour buddy right there, so I don't think we're gonna run out of battery anytime soon. I do think I'm gonna get tired of listening to this thing though. And for those of you following along with the entire air compressor saga, I have installed a new gauge on my old tank so that I can check it against the Ryobi. Here goes. I'm going to put about a half hour on this timer. Kick her on. Oh yeah, that's going to get real annoying after a little while. Alright, so it looks like time's up. It's time to plug the dirty shizno in and make it sing for its supper. We'll see what happens. Just going to let it run until it stops. Still feel the air coming out of there. Here we go. Reset my timer. Well, she shut down, but I don't think its turn off is 90. Yeah, that was an entire 9 amp hour battery. Joke's on you. Here comes another one. Thank God it's over. take a final temp. I noticed before the temp shot up immediately after it shut down. Yeah, that's the highest temp I've seen, 98.1. It'll keep rising too. I also hear something on my compressor leaking, so that probably made this take longer than it needed to. But the idea was a torture test anyway, so we're into it for like an hour and 12 minutes. Now I'm gonna see where my compressor's leaking. The pop-off valve on the other tank was what was leaking. So it's hard to say how long this will truly take to fill that tank, because that thing was probably leaking some the whole time. It's not like I could hear it while this is running. But holy crap, that took a long time. Yeah, now that it's sat there with no airflow, the temp's just spiking. It did good when it came up to steady state. I'll graph all these in a sensible way and put them in. And this is the raw data laid into a table. Really the only thing I want to bring your attention to are these two high points. This 97.3 is when the first battery died. So that was in the time it took me to change the battery. The temperature spiked up 10 degrees because there was no cooling fan or anything running. And the same story is true when the test ended. So as soon as the compressor shuts down, the temperature starts skyrocketing. And you saw that in the video too, but it also starts cooling remarkably fast. I think within 10 minutes total, the temperature had gone up like 15 degrees and had already receded another 10. And within a half hour, just with my hand, it was back down to, in this range here. So nothing particularly unexpected or unusual out of it. Really, I'm pretty impressed with its thermal management. I thought for sure I was going to bake the thing with what I was doing, but you can pause this if you want to study the data in more detail. Otherwise, move it on. And I ended up taking 2 data points. I took the temperature here as we discussed, but I also ended up taking it over here because I think this is the compressor side and this is the intake side. And yeah, now I can even feel it getting warm back here. But while it's running, you can't feel anything. But now that it's off, yeah, it just keeps climbing, 115. Clearly, this thing isn't supposed to be running for over an hour straight, but it did it. See how much of the second battery it used. 1 bar. Each of these batteries takes like 3 hours to charge too, so it absorbed like 4 hours of battery charging time. But what I proved here is if I really, really had to, I could use this thing to run an air tool with my main compressor down. Obviously not recommended, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Like right now I could run my impact gun just off the air it's stored in the big tank. And it looks like the gauges on the Ryobi and on this tank more or less agree. The Ryobi's saying 120, and I think that one's probably saying about 120 as well. And you can see it's coming up pretty much perfectly, 120 on the tank and on the outlet. And after sitting here and resting for about 10 minutes, it's reading 106. It was 109 just a couple minutes ago, so looks like 115 is probably going to be about the peak. And depending on exactly where I hit it and exactly how I hold the gun, I get different numbers slightly. So 108, 109. All in all, I'm very impressed with this thing. I did not at all expect it to put up with that kind of abuse without getting really hot. I did fully expect it to be this slow. Even with my compressor slightly leaking, I figured this thing would take at least 20 minutes to pump it up, and it did. Here's kind of an unexpected bonus. The way I first became aware of this tool was a Techmoan video where he bought one for like dusting electronics. He's not a mechanical guy, so there wasn't a strong comprehension of like this 1-gallon tank probably not being adequate for that job. But the bonus I just ran into is with all my air hose in my shop. This comes down to a coil and it snakes back and it goes up behind the bench. And then it goes over to my hose reel, which is like right there. It's a 50-foot reel. That with all that added volume, I actually can do a fair bit of dusting with this thing, which is pretty cool. I totally didn't expect to be able to. So this is actually the cylinder head off of my main compressor. And that was about all the useful pressure this thing had, but what was that, 15, 20 seconds, something? Plenty enough to get the finishing detail touch on this guy, so cool little bonus. I like this thing. On my end, it's the most boring video I've ever made. Just hanging out in the garage for like an hour and a half with an air compressor going brrrr. Not that exciting for me, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, I want to thank you for stopping in for this video. We'll catch you on the next one. I'm Max, that's Saddington Bear, and we make videos like this all the time. Here are a couple links to some other videos we've made, and we really appreciate you guys stopping in.